This class is concerned with employee retention. Now, employee retention is a process carried out by management in order to encourage their employees to stay within the business for as long as possible. They are trying to retain the staff. Recruiting staff and selecting staff, the whole process of finding staff, is expensive. So it's best to try and retain existing staff. It cuts down on training, it cuts down on the acculturation of the staff within the business. The staff need to find out what the culture of the business is, how the business operates, and the personalities involved, and the processes, and the customers or the clients. So the staff have a lot of knowledge, and retaining the staff is the most efficient way of conducting the business. So employee retention benefits the organization as they want talented employees to stay within the organization. Some staff are crucial to the organization, to its survival and long-term prospects, and it's important that these staff are retained. Management may have invested time and money in training these individuals, as I said earlier, and expect a return on the investment. Investing in people is similar to investing in machinery or in buildings. They expect a return on the training. Higher productivity, more application of the job, better motivation. So retaining staff is the best option. And of course, they don't want to spend a lot of money on training and developing staff to find that the staff leave and join their competitors. That would be totally counterproductive. So they must have staff retention policies. Employee satisfaction is very important if management want to retain their workers. A happy staff tend to stay. If they're contented with their conditions of employment, with their salaries, and with the environment in which they're working, they will tend to stay. It's become very easy for individuals to leave work as soon as they become dissatisfied or have come across some personal circumstances that enable them or require them to leave work. So it's become easy in the sense that information is more readily available. It's easier to find more appropriate tasks, jobs, to relocate. The whole process has been facilitated by the internet, by information being more readily available, by tapping into networks. So it's crucial that the business tries to maintain its staff when it's got them on the books, when it's working with the staff, to stop the whole process of leaving. So it is the employer's job to attract and retain employees. Successful organizations are the ones that effectively retain employees and motivate them to fulfill their potential. So successful organizations have a motivated staff. They're more efficient because they're motivated. They apply themselves. They like working there. They relate to the business and to the objectives of the business. They enjoy their job, so they tend to be more productive. Now, why is it important that we have staff retention? Well, employee retention is important because employers want capable staff to remain within the organization. They don't want to have to search for replacements. It's expensive and it's time consuming. So employee retention has its benefits. It reduces yearly cost of staff turnover. As I said, they don't want to have a constant flow of staff leaving and coming. There are training costs, recruitment costs, and so on. So it's It's not what companies want. Company knowledge remains within the organisation if the staff is relatively fixed. If the staff are happy and contented to work for the organisation, company knowledge grows over time and the workers are more familiar with the routines and what's required of them. And it prevents disruption to customer services and maintains business efficiency. The customers expect work of a certain standard, and if the existing workforce are able to supply that, that's good. And if the existing workforce leave, the new workforce may not know exactly what the customers want. There may be a period of learning about customer requirements, but in that time the customers may be alienated. Of course, having a good staff retention rate indicates that the organisation is good. It's been managed efficiently and properly with the workers in mind as well as the customers, so that the staff are being cared for and they feel a part of the organisation. And to outsiders looking at the organisation, it will appear to be a well-managed business. Now, the reasons for employee turnover. Well, employee turnover refers to the amount of employees leaving each year. It's the number that leave each year. A high staff turnover figure may display the following concerns for the employer. Recruitment costs, as I said to you earlier. The need to replace the employees. Now, that's expensive. So that's one issue. So there may be additional training costs. Finding exactly the right workers to replace the ones who have left may be difficult, and it may require extra training and more resources in training, and the staff coming in have to learn about the business. So they are less productive, at least in the short term. The new staff will have to learn about the business and what's required by the customers of the business and what's required for efficient working within the business. So at least in the initial period, the new staff will be less productive. And it looks bad on the business. If the staff are leaving regularly, it looks like there's something wrong with the business. Perhaps the remuneration package is not sufficient, or perhaps the working conditions are not pleasant, or perhaps the management is too interventionist and too controlling. There's something wrong. There's something perhaps the matter with the business. There are some advantages related to employee turnover. Employing new staff brings in new ideas, new skills, knowledge, expertise to the organisation. So employing new staff is not all bad. It just means that the skills and abilities and experiences of the staff coming in have to be tuned to the requirements of that particular business. Employing staff with the right skills and experience is better than training existing staff. That's often the case. It's often the case that existing staff who have come out of date, have not kept their skills up to date and so on, training those staff may be difficult. They're set in their ways and they're happy to move on day in, day out in the same manner. So training the staff may be expensive, whereas bringing in new staff with more flexible attitudes towards training and learning and developing within the job, the new staff may be less expensive. So there may be advantages in having employee turnover as well as the disadvantages I talked about earlier. Now, the reasons for employee turnover, well, management can conduct exit interviews with employees to understand the reasons why they are leaving. So when a person says they're leaving, just interview them and find out why. Why are they leaving? What's the reason? Um, some of the reasons may be quite straightforward. For example, there might be outside factors, and we'll talk about these again in a second, but for example, family pressures, moving home, or that sort of thing. There can be functional turnover, and again we'll discuss those, push factors and pull factors, and we'll just have a brief word about each of these in turn to give more insight. First of all, the outside factors. Well, personal circumstances may change, and this may lead to the individual wishing to leave to accommodate family or to accommodate issues that have developed in his or her life. Relocation, as I said, may be one, that the family wish to relocate to a different part of the country or to move away from where the work currently is. It could be just to fulfill a long-term ambition, taking a career break, travel the world, or do something else. Just, it's an ambition and they want to live it out, they want to experience it, and it's become important to them, so they want to leave to undertake this. There may be pressure related to work and family commitments. It could be that family commitments have increased. Perhaps a relative is now ill, or there's a new child in the family, or some circumstances within the family has changed, and also perhaps the pressure at work has built up because the business is so successful and it's taken on new orders, so there's pressure on the worker to work longer, apply him or herself more in work, and at the same time there are these family extra burden as well, and the person just simply can't cope. Or it could be down to illness. People want to leave because they don't feel well, or something's happened in their medical condition. Functional turnover. These arise from poor employee work performance. Sometimes people they just can't apply themselves. They may have something on their mind, or the conditions of the work has changed, or something has changed, and the worker is not able to function appropriately, so that there's a mismatch between what the worker is doing and how the worker is performing and what is required. So people may want to leave because they feel out of place, or there may be pressure from management to get them to leave because they're not applying themselves, or they can't meet the requirements of the job. It could be that the employee simply can't fit in with the work culture or the group within the department. There may be personal issues. They don't support the same football team, or they don't see eye to eye about certain issues. Or it could be there's a new manager within the department who's got lots of new ideas, and they don't fit with what the employee wants or how the employee thinks it should work. So there's a mismatch between the two, and the employee thinks it's probably best to leave. In the long run, the answer to this is to try and recruit workers who are more flexible and can adapt more easily and apply themselves more effectively. So it may be down to the selection process, but in the long run, when people have been selected, they tend to start to fit in and become a routine, and that's when issues may arise. For example, only taking on dedicated candidates will be able to fulfill their role. Well, if the candidate is entirely dedicated to a specific function, and that function starts to change because of the onset of new technology or new customer requirements, there may be a mismatch between what the worker was implied to do and what the worker wants to do and what the worker is capable of doing and what is required. And for that reason, the worker may wish to move on and leave the business. There might be push factors which are similar to the ones I've just discussed. There may be concerns relating to dissatisfaction of work, such as there may be no opportunity for career advancement. Perhaps the worker just feels that they're in some sort of occupational quagmire. They're not able to move on. They're not able to get promotion. Their prospects are limited. There's no hope. This is their life, and they feel trapped. So they're unhappy about working there because there are no opportunities. The job itself may be very small and very repetitive, so there may be boredom in the job. They're doing the same task day in, day out. This is their lives, and they can't relate to the work. They can't see this as being what they're going to do for the rest of their life. They're wasting their lives doing some small task repetitively, day in, day out. So they get bored, so they want to leave. The supervision by management may be wrong as well. It may lead to dissatisfaction with the communications between the management. Perhaps management is very assertive about certain issues, and the worker, the operative doesn't want to be spoken to in this way, or perhaps there might be an element of embarrassment because the quality of his or her work is not up to scratch, and management are upset about this. There can be poor supervision as well, that the management is not guiding the worker in the most appropriate way, or supporting the worker and trying to get the worker to rechannel his or her efforts to more effectively meet the requirements of the job. Motivation, generally speaking, may deteriorate, and it may be cumulative downwards. In other words, it starts with some general dissatisfaction, and then it becomes more specific to the particular task, the particular job, and it could actually end with an element of aggression towards the job, that the worker resents having to do this. Now in that case, it's clearly best for the worker's own peace of mind to leave that particular occupation. And it may also be that there's no praise or no reward for a job well done. Workers are human, and we like to be praised. When we've done something well, we like people to say how well we've done it and congratulate us and job well done and good effort. But perhaps the management doesn't do that. They say, well, it's your job, get on with it. And that could be demotivating. So they feel that they're not being valued in their work. And sometimes people may have much more potential than the job requires, and they themselves know they've got more potential, but they can't produce that. They can't use that extra potential. They've got many more skills that they feel are just getting more and more out of date because they're not using the skills. They don't have an opportunity to use them or show them off, and they're feeling frustrated by the whole involvement in that smaller task. So they want to leave to find employment which will more fully reflect what they're capable of doing and give them greater job enrichment, job satisfaction. Now, in addition to the push factors, we can also have pull factors. And pull factors are concerned with issues such as losing employees to rivals. The rivals offer better salaries, better wages, better conditions. They offer more holidays, shorter working week, or whatever. So the workers are pulled out. They're not being pushed out of the company, as in the push factors. These are being pulled out. They're being attracted positively to other companies. This could be salary levels. Employees may look for work where there is a high salary, or in order to improve their living standards. Now, we know from many of the other videos on the course that work is a complex thing. Working gives satisfaction to the worker on many fronts. Being involved in work, it's the social aspect of work, it's the environment in which the worker finds him or herself, it's the challenge of the job, but it's also salary. People must pay bills, they must live. And salary levels may be higher in other businesses which will attract the workers away because they want a higher standard of living. So it may not be that the worker is pushed out by the push factors we talked about earlier. It may be that they're pulled out by higher salaries. And there may be better career development prospects in other companies. So these are the issues involved in employee retention. There's quite a good list of the factors broken down under various headings, and it's worth knowing these. But that's all I'm going to deal with in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.